Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 2. I'm so excited already for this semester. Y'all have done such a good job participating in class in both the discussions and the asynchronous assignments. I'm working on the asynchronous assignment right now, getting that graded. Give me a couple of days to get that done because it's Labor Day weekend, and my family, we've been doing some stuff around the house. So I'm hoping to work on those both tomorrow and have everything graded, including your discussion boards, by Tuesday afternoon. Just to kind of give you a timeline on that, because I always get emails from students going, "Oh, did it go through? Have you graded it yet?" Don't worry, I'll have everything graded by Tuesday afternoon. But once again, I appreciate all of your hard work. And we are jumping right into our literacy narrative. This is our first major paper. We just kind of have to get started on it. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video last week, but because you have a full week for fall break, actually, a lot of you have a little bit more than a full week for fall break. You get like a week and a half, which is kind of odd, but I'm kind of liking it. And you also get a full week off for Thanksgiving. And just because of that, we have to basically squeeze a 13-week semester into 15 weeks. So we just kind of have to go ahead and jump right into this first project. So it is a narrative, and don't panic. I'm going to go over every little bit of it. And this week, your very first asynchronous assignment is actually a student example that I critique. There's a video where I go through and tell you what they did well, what they did wrong, how I kind of graded it, just so that way you have a really, really good idea of what to expect. So a lot of times people assume that narrative writing is not academic writing, but it absolutely is. Any type of writing you do in any type of academic setting is academic writing. But I love narratives. I love stories. We are natural born storytellers. Our stories form who we are and why we believe the things that we do, including the things that we believe about ourselves. And I think that it's really, really important for us to tell our stories. But I mean, we do this all day long. I mean, think about lunch when you sit down and you tell a story of something that happened or something that you witnessed, or think about when you send text messages. Those are little stories that you're telling people sometimes of, "Hey, guess what happened? Guess what I just saw?" I think there's a reason why our society is so obsessed with TikTok, because a lot of times it's people sharing their stories, and we're drawn to that. We're made for stories, I feel like. But narratives, it's not just about writing a chronological story of events. And sometimes it's fine to go a little bit out of order. You're going to watch a video as part of your discussion boards this week. And as Andrew Stanton, he works for Disney. He is the brainchild behind Finding Nemo, Toy Story, and a lot of other probably very, very familiar stories that you grew up watching with Disney. And he tells the story a little bit out of order, and that's just really, really cool. And I wanted you to see how he did that. But the main purpose is finding why these events were significant in the first place. So, a literacy narrative is a story about your relationship with reading, writing, and speaking. You do not have to hit on reading, writing, and speaking. I'm not asking for a literacy autobiography. I'm asking for a narrative. It's a little more narrow. It focuses on two things and two things only. So I want you to think about 1 to 2, no more than that, personal stories that shape your relationship with literacy from the past to this day. Many writers will share their own literacy stories to help their readers understand why they write the way they do and their own feelings towards their writing. Here's a really, really good example of that. So I don't know if any of you grew up reading the Captain and Underpants books. My kids were obsessed with them when they were little. But the author, when he was a kid, was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. He was so disruptive in class that his teachers made him sit outside in the hallway each day. Luckily, Dave loved to draw and make up stories, so he spent his time in the hallway creating his own original comic books, the very first adventures of Dogman and Captain Underpants. And I think that that's just so cool. Right here is a little mini literacy narrative. Tiny one. I'm going to be asking for a much bigger one. But it talks about his struggles. He struggled academically, and yet he is an author, a published author who has made multi-millions of dollars, which I just think is absolutely amazing. Um, So when it comes to your own, you're going to be thinking about your background as a reader, speaker, and writer. Again, you don't have to hit on all three. You can just talk about your reading. You can just talk about your fear of speaking or how you love to speak in front of people or your writing. What kind of literacy have you been exposed to in the past? What was your attitude? How do you feel about it now? Are there one or two memories that really stand out to you as being specific? And what people and places have helped shape your attitudes towards literacy? Now, again, you don't have to hit on all of these. These are just some ideas to help you get started brainstorming. So here's a personal example from me. If I was given this assignment, I already know what I would do, partially because I've been teaching this for a really long time, so it's in the forefront of my mind. But when I was a little girl, we lived out in the country. And this is pre-kindergarten, and I still remember it very vividly. But we lived in the country. It was the 80s. We didn't even have cable. Like, it wasn't available where we lived. Lived next door to my grandparents' farm. We had cows. We grew our own food. It was a pretty awesome place for a kid to grow up. But every single night, my parents would read to me, specifically my mom. And I think it's because neither one of my parents graduated with a bachelor's degree. My mom has an associate's, my dad has some college, but he didn't graduate. And getting an education was extremely important to my parents. Like growing up, it was always, where are you going to college? Not if I was going to college, because I have three brothers and they wanted all of us to have degrees. And we did it. All four of us were first generation bachelor degree students. And all of us have master's degrees, and one of my brothers is currently working on his doctorate. So they were instrumental in shaping how I viewed reading. There were always books in the house, always. My parents were always reading in front of us. But when I was a little girl, I still remember we had this big, ugly brown recliner that was totally 70s/80s. And I would sit in my mom's lap every single night, and she would read Bernstein Bears. She'd read Little House on the Prairie. I remember that one very vividly, and just Richard Scarry books. That's an author. They weren't scary. uh, Go Dog Go, The Pokey Little Puppy, all the little golden books that you could get when you were little. Just That's just one of my fondest memories, and I still love to read to this day. That was a very positive memory. On the flip side of that, when I was a freshman in high school, I had to give a speech, basically. It was a talk. I think we had to tell a story. I was terrified. I was not a good speaker. I had an undiagnosed anxiety condition that wasn't diagnosed till I was an adult. And the idea of getting up and talking in front of people just made me want to cry. I mean, I can still remember I got up to speak. My voice was shaking. My knees were shaking. I got through it. I know I talked in a monotone the entire time, and I can just remember sitting down in my seat going, I never want to do that again. Please make me never do that again. But then I decided to go into education, and I wound up having to talk in front of a lot of people, and it got easier, but I still struggle with it sometimes. I mean, even though I've been in education for going on like 18 years, every now and then speaking in front of a group of people just makes me nervous. My heart will start pounding again. I start sweating. It's so gross. But I mean, it's a real thing, that fear of speaking in front of people. And so, guys, I just did some brainstorming by talking it out to you. One thing I recommend to do for students to do is to actually talk out their stories, like tell someone, record yourself. There's this whole dictate here where you can click on it and speak, and it will um, help you type. You can do it on your phone, like just record yourself telling you your stories, and that can be the base for your paper. And then you can go in there and add in little details. Like I could describe more about like what my parents' living room looked like, what my mom looked like, the fact that she always kind of wore this. It was a Avon like Skin So Soft, which was really popular in the 80s. That type of thing. Or my high school looked like a prison. I think most high schools kind of look like a prison, but just those cinder block rooms with the harsh fluorescent lighting like beating down on me. It just felt oppressive. Also, my high school was haunted, but that's a whole other story. But But anyway, but that's what I want you to do. Just focus on 1 to 2 specific memories. And if you're having trouble segueing between the two of them, we're going to discuss that later on. But just one, and it can just be one. You can just do one memory that really has impacted how you view literacy today. And again, reading, writing, speaking, you can pick one, doesn't have to be both. There's no format requirements, but we're going to start kind of touching on MLA just a little bit. I would like a 12-point font that is close to Times New Roman as you can get it. It doesn't have to be Times New Roman, but Times New Roman-esque, that's what this is. Um, Double spacing, because then you're going to wind up writing twice as much than you need to if you don't double space, and make sure you have a title. It's due at 9:22 at 11:59 p.m. Hold on a second, it's not going down. So I will be providing a rubric. I don't want you to worry about it too much right now because it's basically going to be covering these things. Does it use elements of plot to tell a story? Are you painting that picture, setting the setting? Is it coherent? Will my audience understand it? Does it stay on topic? Do you provide those specific examples to paint a clear picture? Do you offer details? Did you remember your title? So those are kind of the things I'm going to be looking for. Your audience will be an audience of your peers. So think about it this way. You're not writing this for me. You're writing it how you would share it with someone else. So that means you're rhetorically speaking, your language constraints are a little bit. You don't have to worry about it sounding overly academic for a college instructor to read it. Like, I want it to be in your voice, like the way you would talk to a friend. Um, Only share what you're willing to let someone else see. Sometimes students, if it's a really bad memory that you just really don't feel comfortable writing about, don't do it. So always only share what you're willing to share. We will do a peer review and on the rough draft in a couple of weeks, but and in your asynchronous assignment, week one, the first asynchronous assignment, again, student example, my critique on it. I'm going to have you start doing a little bit of pre-writing over it. We do this in baby steps, always. Your other 2 asynchronous assignments, one is going to be dealing with rhetoric, and those are concepts that we're going to be using throughout the course of the semester, especially towards the end of the semester when we start doing things. And we're going to be doing a couple of analysis papers, and we're going to be analyzing things rhetorically. So these concepts are things we will be using throughout the course. And as I said, your discussion post is going to be an Andrew Stanton TED Talk. One thing though, it does have some course language at the beginning, so make sure there are no little ears around when you watch the first 2 minutes. Just a little friendly warning there. I don't want anyone to get in trouble by going, it's an F bomb. But oh my gosh, Andrew Stanton, the guy who's the voice of Crush, just swore. Uh, just to be on the safe side. But if you have any questions, as always, just let me know.